All right, let's talk about a mystery that drives even the most dedicated plant lovers a little crazy. Why do our orchids, the ones we baby and care for so meticulously, sometimes just give up? You give them the perfect spot, you water them just right, but something's clearly wrong. Well, we're going to figure out exactly what that is.
You know that feeling, right? You've followed every single rule in the fertilizer bottle, you've done everything you're supposed to do, and you're still getting yellow leaves and black tips. It's so frustrating. But what if the problem isn't you? What if the problem is the rules themselves? For ever, we've all been told that plant care is all about NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. And yeah, for a lot of farm crops, that makes sense. But here's the twist. For orchids, which evolved to be super efficient in really nutrient-poor places, the real game changers are actually calcium and magnesium. This is the big idea we're diving into today.
Okay, let's start with calcium. The best way to think about it is like it's the rebar and concrete for your plant cells. It builds these incredibly strong, rigid cell walls, and that's not just for show. It's the orchid's armor. It's their first line of defense against nasty diseases like black rot. A plant that has enough calcium is a tough plant.
So if calcium is the skeleton, what's magnesium? Well, it's the engine. It is the literal central atom in every single molecule of chlorophyll. So no magnesium, no green leaves. No green leaves, no photosynthesis. It's that simple. It is a spark plug that captures sunlight and turns it into energy for everything. New leaves, new roots, and of course those amazing flowers.
Okay, so if calcium and magnesium are so absolutely critical, why don't our plants get enough of them? The answer is pretty shocking, actually. The culprit is a nutrient we've always been told is a good guy, potassium. And this is where our little plant mystery gets really interesting.
And look, this isn't just a hunch. This is the science. This quote gets right to the heart of it. You've got to understand that these nutrients are in a constant arm wrestling match to get into the plant's roots. It's a real thing called ion antagonism, and this competition is the hidden villain behind so many of those frustrating orchid problems.
So how does this whole blockade actually happen? It's a pretty simple three-step takedown. First, we apply one of those standard all-purpose fertilizers that's packed with potassium. Next, all those potassium ions, which orchids are just evolved to snatch up really aggressively, they flood the root system. They're like a mob of greedy gatekeepers. And finally, the bigger, more cumbersome calcium and magnesium ions, they just get physically crowded out. They can't get in, even if there's plenty of them around. The plant is literally starving in a sea of food.
This brings us to a whole new way of thinking. We have to stop trying to force our orchids to grow like corn and start thinking like an orchid. The solution is to copy what they get in the wild. It's called the K-Light strategy. All it means is cutting back on the potassium so that the plant has a chance to absorb the calcium and magnesium it desperately needs.
Okay, now for the fun part. Armed with this new information, you can stop guessing what's wrong with your plants. It's time to become a plant detective, because trust me, the clues are written all over the leaves.
Your first and most important clue is always location. Where is the problem showing up? Is it on the brand new baby leaves or the old mature ones? This tells you everything. Nutrients like calcium are immobile. The plant can't move them around. So if there's a shortage, the new growth suffers. But mobile nutrients like magnesium are different. The plant can actually pull them out of old leaves to feed the new growth. So for those, the old leaves are the ones that show symptoms first.
And here's your cheat sheet. This puts it all together. Just look at the difference. A calcium deficiency gives you those scary jet black tips on new leaves, but a magnesium problem, that shows up as a blotchy kind of watercolor yellow on the oldest leaves. They look completely different, and now you know exactly why.
Okay, everybody lean in for this one. This is, without a doubt, the most critical distinction every single orchid grower needs to learn. Getting this wrong can kill your plant. I'm talking about calcium deficiency versus black rot. Look closely. Calcium deficiency is always on the newest growth. The bad spot is dry and firm, and there's a sharp line where the black meets the green. Black rot? It can pop up anywhere, it's soft and mushy, and it often has this sickly yellow halo around it. One needs a little calcium. The other needs an emergency quarantine and fungicide like yesterday.
So we figured out how to diagnose the problem. Now let's build our toolkit and put together a real actionable plan to get your orchid nutrition on the right track.
Everything, and I mean everything, starts with your water. If you're using pure water, like from a reverse osmosis filter or rainwater you've collected, you are starting with a completely blank slate. That means you are responsible for adding back in 100% of the calcium and magnesium.
Now, if you're using hard tap water, you probably have a decent amount of calcium already, but you're almost guaranteed to be low on magnesium, so you'll need to supplement that, probably with a little Epsom salts.
So what are we shooting for? Let's talk numbers. For calcium, a really fantastic target for anyone using pure water is right around 50 parts per million. You want to balance that with about 60 ppm of nitrogen and maybe 20 ppm of magnesium. That's the kind of ratio that fuels healthy growth without causing that nutrient traffic jam we talked about earlier.
Whoa, hold on. Before you run off and start mixing everything up in a bucket, you need to see this. This is critically important. You can't just throw all these things together. If you mix concentrated calcium nitrate with magnesium sulfate, that's Epsom salts, you literally create gypsum. It's basically plaster. It immediately becomes useless to the plant and will clog up your sprayer. The rule is always dilute your fertilizers one at a time in the final volume of water.
You see, what we're really talking about here isn't just a new recipe. It's a completely different philosophy of feeding. We have to shift our thinking away from trying to force feed our orchids and just get back to gently nourishing them the way they expect to be nourished.
And this quote right here, this is the ecological truth that backs it all up. Orchids spent millions of years evolving in places where potassium was incredibly scarce. We're talking less than 4 parts per million. So why on earth are we blasting them with fertilizers that have hundreds of parts per million of it? Our goal should be to honor their history, not fight it.
So let's just boil it all down. What do you need to remember? First, shift your focus from NPK to calcium and magnesium. Second, go easy on the potassium to stop that nutrient competition. Third, be a plant detective. New growth tells you about calcium, old growth tells you about magnesium. And finally, know what's in your water and please don't mix your concentrates. So I'll just leave you with this one final thought. The next time you pick up your fertilizer, ask yourself this question. Are you feeding your orchid what a marketing label says it wants, or are you feeding it what millions of years of evolution have programmed it to actually need?